Good evening, this is Ajita with my mate Aksha Paulin from CSBSA. Today we are going to look after a topic about microeconomic insights and a concept. So basically microeconomics is a branch of economics that studies the behavior of individuals and firms in making decisions regarding the allocation of scarce resources and interaction among the individual and firms. So we have two things, that is a supply and demand. So supply is fundamentally economical concept that describes the total amount of specific goods and services that are available to the customers. Demand is simply the quantity of goods or service that consumers are willing and able to buy at a price given at the time period. People demand goods and services in economy to satisfy their wants such as food, healthcare, clothes, entertainment, shelter, and many more. So as you can see, there are two graphs. These graphs are the law of supply and demand. So understanding the demand curve. The demand curve is the commonly used graph that represents the relationship between the price and the total quantity of goods and services demanded over a certain period of time. So price normally appears on the y-axis while the demand is treated on the x-axis. This curve generally moves downward to the left and to the right. This movement experiences the law of demand, which states that the price of the given commodity increases, the quantity of the demand decays in the longest. Next, we will look into the law of supply. The law of supply states that when the price of the commodity falls, the supply decreases. When the price of the commodity rises, the supply increases. Other things remains constant. Supply refers to the amount of quantity that firms are willing to produce or offer the sale in the market. So next, if you look into the equilibrium of supply and demand, an equilibrium price is the balance of demand and supply factor. There's a tendency for prices to return to the equilibrium unless some characters of demand or supply changes. The equilibrium price is the price at which the quantity demands equal to the quantity supplies. The demand by the intersection of the demand and supply curve. A surplus determines by the intersection of demand and supply curve. A surplus existence of the quantity of goods and services. Supply extends the quantity demand at the current price, cause downward pressures on the price. So next, upcoming slides will be explained by my mate Aksha Paulin. Thank you.
So now let's talk about elasticity of demand. So when it comes to elasticity of demand, we have two types: elastic demand and inelastic demand. When it is elastic demand, the price will change, and if it changes, it will lead to a larger change in demand. So we call this as elastic demand. Whereas in inelastic demand, if the price change, it will only result in a small change in demand. So let's see what are the factors affecting elasticity. The first thing is substitution, which means easily if you can substitute a good in the market, it will make the demand more elastic. Then we have urgency, and urgent needs lead to inelastic demand. Then we have the duration, which is short term or long term changes. Now let's talk about elasticity of supply. So what is it? It measures the responsiveness of the quantity supplied of a good or service to a change in its price. So it indicates how much the supply of a product changes when the price change. So we can say that the supply of a product is directly proportional to the price change. Let's look at what are the types of elastic supply. We have perfectly elastic supply, unit elastic supply, inelastic supply, and perfectly inelastic supply. Now let's look about perfect competition. So perfect competition is an imaginary market where there are a large number of buyers and sellers, and there are perfect information, there's free entry and exit, and an identical product. So in such a market, no one can influence the market price of a good. So let's look at what are the characteristics of the perfectly competitive market. We have homogeneous product, which means the same product and no product differentiation. we have perfect information, we have free entry and exit, and we have price takers, and then we have a large number of buyers or sellers. So in this case, the market force will determine the price, not the people who sell the product or the people who consume the product. Next, we have scarcity and its relation to microeconomics. So what is scarcity? So scarcity in short can be said as the lack of resources for a human want or need. So it's like a limited availability of resources. And microeconomics focuses on the behavior of individual economic agents. So you could ask, what is the relation between scarcity and microeconomics? Well, scarcity is the driving force behind the economic activity that microeconomics actually takes place inside this. So microeconomics is driven by scarcity. So the following is a graph between price and quantity, where you can see the demand and supply curve, and you can also see the intersection between the price and the quantity in the slopes. Next, we have the influence of microeconomics on scarcity. So the first thing is resource allocation, which means how the scarce resources are allocated. Then we have market equilibrium, where it is shown about supply and demand and their interaction to determine the market prices. Then we can see incentives, which means the scarcity will create an incentives for individual, and it will conserve the resources to overcome the constraints. Then we have trade specialization, which means microeconomics will analyze how the trade and specialization is done, and it will allow the countries to specialize in producing goods such as it solves the scarcity. Then we have market failures. So microeconomics is very helpful to identify the failures in the market, so the resources can be allocated efficiently. In the conclusion, we can say that microeconomics and scarcity are very much related to each other, and they give a foundational understanding of how economic agents such as consumers indicate and interact within the market. So by examining the consumer behavior and production theory, we can actually say that the models and theory presented are simplification of the complex real world phenomena. They help us to understand the grasp of the microeconomics and empower us to make informed decisions. Thank you.